It's the year 2000. The dot-com bubble is imploding, destroying fortunes overnight. And in a high-rise boardroom in Dallas, Texas, a man named Reed Hastings is sweating. He's pitching his tiny, struggling company to the kings of the entertainment world. Blockbuster Video, the empire, 9,000 stores, 65 million customers. Hastings makes an offer, buy us for $50 million.
And then they asked the big question, how much should we pay for you? And my partner, Reed, screwed up his courage and he said, $50 million?
We'll run your online brand. You keep the stores, we take the internet. John Antioco, Blockbuster's CEO, doesn't just say no. According to people who were in that room, he struggles not to laugh in their faces. Blockbuster was the empire. Netflix was a gnat.
And that's exactly the reaction that they had. So the meeting went downhill very quickly after that, and it was a long, quiet ride on the plane back home to California. And I remember so distinctly sitting there quietly, just thinking, oh, now we're going to have to kick their ass.
That laugh, that was the most expensive laugh in corporate history, because today, Blockbuster is a ghost story, and the company they laughed at is worth over $200 billion. But here's the twist. The story you think you know about why Netflix won, it's a lie. It wasn't about late fees. It wasn't about convenience. It was about a secret weapon Reed Hastings was building while the entire world wasn't looking. A weapon made of math, psychology, and absolute ruthlessness. And by the time anyone realized what was happening, it was already too late. See, while Blockbuster was counting cash at the register, Netflix was doing something nobody expected. They were hiring people to watch movies, but not just watch them, dissect them, like scientists in a lab. There's a leaked document, it's real, you can find it online, called the Netflix Quantum Theory. And in this document, we discovered that Netflix didn't just categorize movies as comedy or action like a normal company. They broke Hollywood down into atoms. They hired an army of people called taggers. These people sat for hours, analyzing every single title in their library. They didn't just say a movie was scary. They rated the level of romance on a scale of 1 to 5. They tagged the social acceptability of the lead character. They tagged whether the ending was happy, sad, or ambiguous. This wasn't just a spreadsheet, it was a 36-page training manual on how to deconstruct human emotion. The result? Over 76,000 specific microgenres. Gritty tearjerkers from the 1970s. Witty mockumentaries featuring a strong female lead. Visually striking, goofy action. You've seen these. You've scrolled past them at 2 in the morning thinking, that's weirdly specific. That wasn't a coincidence, that was the weapon. Because Netflix wasn't trying to recommend you a movie. They were building a crystal ball, and in 2011, that crystal ball spit out a prediction. It told Netflix that their users loved 3 very specific things: the director David Fincher, the actor Kevin Spacey, and British political dramas. Now, a human executive would look at that data and say, that's a weird mix, that doesn't make sense. But the algorithm said, green-light it. So Netflix did something insane. They dropped $100 million to buy 2 full seasons of a show called House of Cards, without even seeing a pilot episode, no test run, no safety net. It was unheard of. It was reckless, and it changed television forever. Because they weren't taking a creative risk. They were making an actuarial calculation. They already knew the audience existed before the first script was even written. That's when everyone realized Netflix wasn't a DVD company anymore. They weren't even a streaming company. They were a data company that happened to sell entertainment. So they had the data, they had the money. But to build this machine, Reed Hastings needed a very specific type of human being. Most companies treat employees like family, corporate pizza parties, casual Fridays. We're all in this together. Netflix treats employees like a professional sports team. And what happens when a player on a pro team starts slowing down? You cut them. This is called the keeper test. It works like this. Every manager at Netflix has to ask themselves one question about every person on their team. If this employee told me right now they were leaving for another job, would I fight hard to keep them? If the answer is no, even if it's a hesitant no, that employee gets fired immediately, even if they're doing a good job, even if they're hitting their targets. Because being average at Netflix is a fireable offense. There's even a line in their famous culture deck that says, adequate performance gets a generous severance. Let that sink in. Adequate gets you fired. And this isn't theoretical. Let me tell you about Neil Hunt. Neil Hunt was the chief product officer at Netflix. He'd been there from the beginning. He was one of Reed Hastings' close friends. He built the algorithm I just told you about, the one that predicted House of Cards. One day, Hastings walks into his office and basically says, "You're not the right person for the next stage of the company." And just like that, the friend was gone. They call it radical candor. No secrets, total transparency. If you get fired, they might send an email to the entire department explaining exactly why you failed. It's ruthless, it's terrifying, and it's incredibly effective. Because here's the thing, this culture is exactly why Netflix pivots so fast. Why they went from DVDs to streaming to original content to gaming to live sports without missing a beat. Blockbuster couldn't pivot. They were too comfortable, too slow, too loyal to the old way. Netflix burns through people like rocket fuel. And that rocket, it never stops accelerating. But even geniuses make catastrophically stupid mistakes. And in 2011, Netflix almost committed corporate suicide. Reed Hastings decided that DVDs were dead. He was right, but he moved way too fast. He announced that Netflix would split into two companies. Streaming would stay Netflix. But DVDs, they'd become something called Quickster. Yeah, Quickster. Customers would have to use two different websites, two different passwords, two separate credit card charges. The internet absolutely revolted. The stock price crashed from $42 to $9. They lost 800,000 subscribers in a single quarter. Hastings had to go on camera and apologize. He looked shaken, uncomfortable. He admitted, "I slid into arrogance." They killed Quickster barely a month later. But here's what that disaster actually revealed. Netflix is willing to burn their own house down if they think it'll help them survive the winter. They knew DVDs were a sinking ship. They tried to jump off too early and broke their legs in the process, but they did jump. Blockbuster stayed on the ship all the way down to the ocean floor, and the moment Netflix recovered, they doubled down. House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, Stranger Things. The narrative shifted from pricing disaster to must-have content in less than 2 years. Cut to today, Netflix isn't just a tech company anymore, it's the default setting for human leisure. In 2023, everyone said Netflix was dead. Again. They cracked down on password sharing. People were furious. Twitter was ablaze with "I'm canceling my subscription" posts. Guess what happened? They added millions of new subscribers. Then they introduced ads, something Reed Hastings swore he'd never do. And now, the ad tier is their biggest growth engine. They've mastered what I call the value loop. They hook you with a clip on TikTok. You come to the platform for the show. The algorithm keeps you there for 3 more hours, watching things you didn't even know you wanted to see. They don't care if you like the show. They care that you don't cancel. They track something called churn rate, like it's a vital sign. And right now, Netflix has the lowest churn rate in the entire streaming industry, around 2 to 4%. Disney Plus, Max, they're bleeding subscribers. Netflix, they're a fortress. 282 million subscribers, $17 billion in content spending, live NFL games on Christmas Day, from a mythical $40 late fee to a $200 billion empire. Netflix didn't win because they were nice. They didn't win because they got lucky. They won because they treated entertainment like a math problem. They quantified your nostalgia. They algorithmized your boredom. They fired anyone who couldn't keep up. And they built a machine so efficient, so personalized, that you don't even realize you're trapped inside it. So, the next time you're scrolling through Netflix at 2 in the morning, looking at those weirdly specific micro-genres, dark foreign sci-fi thrillers with a strong female lead, feel-good underdog sports movies from the 1990s, just remember something, you're not searching for a movie, you're feeding the machine. And that machine, it knows you better than you know yourself. Sweet dreams.